Greetings and good Thursday morning. Was it 18th of May? Yeah, they all start to blur together now. 2023, still the third decade of the 21st century, and it's already the 18th of May. We are already halfway through the month of May. Good God, where the hell's the time go? Again, if you're new to my channel, I open with that as a means to sort of highlight the fact that it's not just the 21st century, but we are into the third decade of the 21st century. What the hell? Don't know you. I still get phone calls or messages from time to time regarding a property I owned in Ohio. It's bothersome at best. I'm always amazed that it is in fact the third decade of the 21st century, and you look at what sort of things we're talking about, and then, you know, maybe I don't do a good enough job of asking this question, but why? Why are we talking about this in the third decade of the 21st century? And yesterday I was talking with some co-workers, and we'll probably pick it back up again later today when I get to work. But we were trying to talk about the origins, and I won't really get into that right now because, you know, this video I really don't want to focus on the socio-political. Unfortunately, I don't have any comments to respond to. I'm guessing, Stace, you've been busy, or maybe you just didn't like the topic per se. But with that in mind, I mean, obviously we had the Trump town hall. That's been some big news recently. We had the Durham report, which I don't really know what to say about that, because on the socio-political level, because of how divided we are, some people, because of their thoughts and their beliefs and how committed they are, they'll deny the information in the Durham report, and then others, because of their thoughts and beliefs, will cry outrage because to them it's a smoking gun. And admittedly, what I don't know is whether or not this has consistently happened in the legacy of our country. Just, we live in a different age where we have a greater ability to communicate nationally, globally. But, you know, going back to that whole thing with the Trump indictment, you know, the whole tit for tat, if there is damning and conclusive evidence in the Durham report that not just exonerates former President Trump, but implicates others in wrongdoing, conspiracy, deception, then I think they need to be held accountable to the highest standard, especially if in any way, shape, or form it absolutely had an effect on the potential outcome of the election. And, you know, I know people have their differing opinions, but I think based on some of the anecdotal evidence, there's enough to suggest that there was, in fact, some malarkey, some tampering, so to speak, with the election. Just where it's probably always happened in the past, just not on such a grand scale, because, you know, former President Trump was a very, very polarizing individual. And in some ways, I love that about him. I love how he's not in control of the political factions, that he doesn't abide by their rules, that he feels the freedom to call out things. For that much, I love him. But I can also see how it is too big a shock to the system. It's too much of a shock to the system. And for that matter, as far as recent politics go, I'm really pulling for Vivek Ramaswamy. You know, I think much like Trump, he's an outsider, but I think he can bring a level of conduct to the table that Trump didn't. Do I think Trump has no place in politics? Absolutely not. I think he absolutely has a place in politics. I just think maybe he needs to sort of get himself under control. But as far as up-and-comers go, I'd like to see Ron DeSantis maintain the bastion of freedom that is Florida. I don't know if he can have the same effect on the country as he has in Florida. And I'm not trying to sell the man short. I just think he's got a really good thing going, and he should maintain that positive momentum in Florida. until perhaps maybe Florida is on board with that idea and that concept, and they can find a successor to Ron DeSantis that will keep that same momentum and whatnot. But otherwise, I'm pulling for Vivek Ramaswamy. Having put all that, having gotten all that out of the way and putting that behind us, on a more nerdier, geekier platform, I apologize if I mentioned this before. I think I tried making a video and it didn't really go anywhere. On the geekier side of things, so Big Sky has been canceled, and depending on how you got there, if you were a fan of Big Sky or if you were contemplating Big Sky, it starred Catherine Winnick from the Vikings series, which was phenomenal, and she is gorgeous. She's intimidatingly beautiful. And then eventually, the last season, I think the third season maybe, Jensen Ackles from Supernatural was in it, and he was really good. I really enjoyed, seeing a different portrayal out of Jensen, but one that I could get behind, and I'll make my point in a moment. But they canceled it, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know if, I think it was ABC. I don't know if ABC's trying to go super woke until they reach ultimate failure like Budweiser's doing. But I don't know. Speaking of cancellations, the CW's canceling a whole bunch of stuff. And I can't help but wonder why. And, when I look at the properties they're keeping and I look at the properties they're getting rid of, I don't know what conclusions to draw. So they got rid of the Winchesters, which was a Supernatural prequel set in a different universe outside of the universe we knew on Supernatural for 15 years, and it tells the story of a young John and Mary Winchester, but a completely different perspective, and I really enjoyed it. If for no other reason, it was nice to get that supernatural story back in my life, and my wife's life. I mean, for those who are not tracking, my wife and I got married in 04. We PCS'd as newlyweds to Camp Lejeune, had a baby in 05, and Supernatural premiered in September of 05, and it was the first show she and I started together organically and watched for all 15 seasons. We had Supernatural with us when both of our sons were born. We had Supernatural with us when we moved to Chapel Hill and then subsequently moved to Columbus. We had Supernatural with us when she went to Chicago and I moved back out here. We had Supernatural with us when we reunited as a family here in North Carolina. We had Supernatural with us when we moved up to the Raleigh area and lost our son. We had Supernatural with us when we moved back here, and we had Supernatural with us when we moved into this house, the last house we'll ever own. So, I mean, Supernatural was one of the main consistencies in our life, and we didn't like it just because of that. That was just a coincidental bonus, but it was nice to get something in that vein back in the form of the Winchesters. And the CW canceled it, and a few other shows, but none that I was overly concerned with. With the exception of maybe Stargirl and possibly Superman and Lois, they're almost completely done with DC. And whether that's because of DC or because of CW or whatever, I don't know. But The Flash had its final season. We'll probably watch that on Netflix if it's still available on that platform. But the CW, as far as I've been aware, has really tried to focus on being woke, so to speak, on trying to address all these niche social issues. And I don't know if it's going to pan out for them. I know they're under new ownership, but losing the Winchesters was significant, and I really hope the Winchesters can find its footing somewhere else. I hope that it can continue on somewhere else, and for that matter, I hope Big Sky can carry on somewhere else. I'm not afraid to admit the fact that I ventured over to Big Sky with my wife because of Catherine Winnick. I'm not going to deny the fact that when they added Jensen Ackles to the cast, that wasn't like a big, oh, good, phenomenal thing. So I hope both shows can find themselves a new home somewhere else, even if it's on a streaming network. We'll just have to wait and see. I've said this numerous times, and I apologize for being repetitive. We ventured over to Walker because of Jared Padalecki. My wife and I, neither one of us watched the original Walker Texas Ranger, but I think because we were both aware of it, we were both conscious of it, we were both expecting for Walker to stay on brand. Modernize it, bring it up to the modern century, the modern millennium, but, keep it on brand. I'm not saying Jared's got to be a black belt in Taekwondo or something and do spinning heel kicks, but, maybe like a John Wick style. Just keep it on brand. And instead, the direction they went in was very difficult to get behind. Some people may love it. Some people may love it for no other reason than because of Jared, and like they need to get their Jared fix because, we just got so attached to the characters on Supernatural that maybe like an addiction or maybe like a routine or a habit or OCD. Some people are still watching Walker because of it, but my wife and I couldn't deal with it. We didn't enjoy the direction. We didn't enjoy the plot. It was lost on us, but I don't know. My channel's open. You're free to express yourself and your opinions and tell me what you think and, increase dialogue and discourse. The one thing my wife and I have been doing is we've been going back and rewatching older shows. Like right now we're watching Once Upon a Time, and so far we're in the 6th season, which puts us in 2016. And in 2016, I don't know that all of the issues we're dealing with right now were at the forefront, but I know like Colin Kaepernick was a big thing going on. Trayvon Martin, I'm pretty sure BLM was pretty popular at that point in time, but I don't know if all this trans stuff and whatnot was as popular. But we're watching Once Upon a Time, and so far not bad. We're taking yet another break from Battlestar Galactica. I don't know what it is about Battlestar Galactica, but it just you need a break. That's all I can say. And I don't know if anybody feels the same, but we need a break. Like it gets to the point where it's like, well, same shit, different day, and we need a break. And I don't know if you felt that way about if anybody out there watching this has felt the same way about any other particular show for that matter. We got to that point too with Stargate SG-1, the original series, and then we came back to it somewhere around midway through season 6, and I don't know what it was, but it was great. In additional geekier stuff, Morena Baccarin was recently on the Inside of You podcast with Michael Rosenbaum, and I apologize if I've said this before. I don't know if I actually published this video, but she had commented on Firefly Serenity, and essentially, I'm going to paraphrase because you can go back and watch this. She's basically over it. She's not holding a candle for it, and a part of me was disappointed. A part of me was like, oh man, because big fan of Firefly Serenity. But a part of me, I guess, can understand because, she's a working actress. And as a working actor, whatnot, you have to move forward. I think there are plenty of examples of people who burned bright for a short period of time on a short-lived show, and they still they still hold a candle for it. I don't know if that is true for the Green Ranger, or if I'm just using an example incorrectly, but some actors and actresses, they burned real bright on a particular show that didn't last very long, and they really were unable to move forward beyond that. So they continue to either revisit it, through cons or whatnot. And while I was a little taken aback by her response, a part of me can understand in the sense that, look, this is how I make a living. I've been doing rather well for myself since Firefly Serenity. I have to keep moving forward. Would I entertain like a reunion, you know, like a movie or something? I think she said a movie she'd be okay with, but I think she said something in the vein that she's not holding her breath for rebooting Firefly. That she's not sinking all of her emotions in it. And she said it in such a way where the initial shock and awe wore off really fast, and it made sense, where I was like, okay, all right, I get it. You know, rather than holding your breath for this to return, keep moving. And if it ever does return, depending on where you're at in your life, what contracts you're under, sure. And I can see that. I mean, it's a bit hurtful. I know a lot of us fans are having a hard time. You know, like, it's been 20 years since the last episodes aired. I mean, you know, even Josh Whedon said, when does this go from CPR to necrophilia? And maybe Firefly is just so magical because of what it was. But I would definitely like to see the stories continue beyond the comics. Admittedly, I have not yet read the graphic novels by Gregory Pack, and the direction he's taking it, so I don't know. I'm on at least one fan page, and I think I've posed the question, and some people were like, the novels themselves are a bit redundant, the overuse of some of the catchphrases. The books are okay. I don't know. We'll see. But as far as all things neat, nerdy and geeky, hopefully this is a decent little fix for some of us. Please feel free to leave a comment. I'm not as big as other people. I'm not in it for monetization. I'm not doing this to earn a living. So I don't really care if you share, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, any of those things. I'm not monetized. So, you know, I also don't have a paywall. So you don't have to pay to leave a comment for me to respond. If you leave a comment, I promise I will read, react, and respond to it. And if you do, I appreciate it. You're awesome. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.